Welcome back to Yanks Abroad, and we're here just a few hours after the September camp roster has been announced, and it's a shocking one. I'll give Pochettino a small bit of credit right off the top before we get into what is really a shocking lineup, a shocking roster. He has said this is his last roster where he's going to see any new players. So for that reason, I understand bringing in some different goalkeepers. The goalkeeper situation is not a good one. It does appear at this moment that Matt Freese is his most trusted goalkeeper. So that's good news. But to see Roman Celentano, the 24-year-old goalkeeper for Cincinnati, and Jonathan Klinsmann, who plays in Serie B for Cesena, is a little bit surprising, but I can understand the goalkeepers. Defenders. We're going to get a lot more detail, but just like I can understand the first time you're going to get to see someone is also the last time you're going to get to see someone for who may make the World Cup roster. Noah Kai Banks. Thank God he's in this team. If really no new players have a chance of getting in here, Noah Kai Banks has a shot now at making the World Cup, which is very exciting for us because he may have an explosive season this year for Augsburg. We have yet to see him play this year in a non-friendly, but Noah Kai Banks is one of the biggest young prospects for the Americans and one who absolutely needs to have a chance. The rest of the team, I have not much to say. Let's just get right into it, going position by position. This is a wild, wild team for Pochettino to have selected. I mean, the list of players who haven't been selected is crazy. You can go through each one of them and kind of understand why he didn't take them, but at the same time, this is one where we're going to go into these matches and not even feel like favorites. We have to start building some confidence at some point. No Balogun. Okay, Flo has basically played one match in the last year. He started twice. Flo Balogun has started just 2 times since December 1st of 2024, one of them being this past weekend. All right, let him get, back into the flow of things, no pun intended. Monaco seemingly still trust Balogun. He started over Biarritz on the weekend. So let him train with Monaco. He'll get back into the side. Weston McKennie, still fighting for his place at Juventus. Did not start on the weekend. It does look like he may get a chance at left wing back again, which we've seen him play quite a bit for Juventus, as Cambiaso got a red card on the weekend, but clearly not super in their plans. All right, I guess no Weston McKennie. Johnny Cardoso. Johnny Cardoso's had an unbelievable start to his time at Atletico Madrid. I implore all of you to go look at what Johnny Cardoso has done for these Atletico fans. The way they talk about him, the way that they are so in love with the player's intensity, his calmness, his ability to win the ball back, his passing range. They love Johnny Cardoso. So you're still trying to let him kind of get into the flow of things here at Atletico Madrid. All right, you don't take him. Tanner Tessmann. Tanner Tessmann's off to a really hot start for Lyon. Wouldn't you want to bring him to try and get him involved with the U.S. camp roster? Or are you so certain that he's nearly a lock for the team that you'd rather him settle in at Lyon? I mean, a big issue for him last year was the late transfer to Lyon and then kind of being in and out of the team. He's in the team right now. You don't want to start that. All right, those 4, and then Gio Reyna as well, I can understand. Just kind of moving or whatever, getting settled in. Mark McKenzie. Mark McKenzie absolutely should be in this squad. He should realistically be starting alongside Chris Richards in this squad. This is your chance to see the two of them. Mark McKenzie is very trusted at Toulouse. He's part of the group of captains at Toulouse. So he should be in this squad 100% over Tristan Blackman, a 29-year-old who's never gotten a cap for the U.S. men's national team. The chances of Tristan Blackman making the World Cup roster are as close to 0 as it gets. How about Yunus Musa? I know Yunus Musa is kind of in the midst of, he may make a transfer. Atalanta are interested. Napoli have been interested. Nottingham Forest are interested. Every day it's a new club. But Yunus Musa at this point is an odd man out. He's fighting for his chance to get into this team. Aiden Morris has had an unbelievable start at Middlesbrough this year. He's been their best player so far in the championship. Get him into the side. Haji Wright. The fact that Haji Wright's not on this side, I'm very worried that he has no chance at this point of making the World Cup squad. He is off to an incredibly hot start for Coventry. Look at the group of forwards. How does Haji Wright not get in over Alex Zendejas? I just cannot understand that. Haji Wright to me, and anybody who watches this show every single week knows how I feel about Haji Wright. And if you don't, make sure to hit the subscribe button. But Haji Wright is probably the most talented attacker we could have taken outside of Christian Pulisic. To this team. At least a player who really can play as a striker, who can play as a forward, versatile, goal scorer, channel runner, fits the way we want to play so excellently, yet he doesn't get selected. It's an absolutely shocking team chosen here by Mauricio Pochettino. Let's look at the defenders. Max Armstrong, I understand. Anthony Robinson's just getting back to fit. You need a left back for sure. But where is John Tolkien? How is John Tolkien not getting to the side? He hasn't had an incredibly hot start at Holstein Kiel this year. He's playing in a little bit more attacking role now for them, so he should be more fit for the way that Pochettino wants his left back to play. But instead, Nathan Harriel is being called up, I assume, as the backup left back, or is it Serginho Dest, who can also play at left back, is kind of the second option at left back. I know Harriel's more comfortable at right back, but we saw him at left back for the Gold Cup. But we've seen Harriel for the U.S. men's national team. He's not good enough. He's not even having a good MLS season. He's been just average at best for the Philadelphia Union. Happy to see Alex Freeman in there. And then Tim Ream. I know Tim Ream's kind of like the captain of this team, and I'm all in on Tim Ream at this point, probably making the World Cup roster. But he's the most known quantity of the 22 players that have been selected here. One more will be added on. But of the 22 players on this list, he's the most known quantity. Why waste a spot on him in what's clearly an experimental camp? And instead, you don't bring Mark McKenzie. You don't bring John Tolkien. You could bring James Sands, who can play a little bit of center back. But Tim Ream is selected. I really can't understand that in the slightest. Into the midfield. I mean, I guess Tyler Adams, Tyler Adams still is not playing his best football right now, but one who seems like he could use a rest. Sebastian Berhalter, I'll give him the credit of he's had a very consistent run of form since the Gold Cup. He was fine in the Gold Cup. He's been very good for Vancouver since the Gold Cup, whatever. Luca De La Torre has been bad for San Diego FC since the Gold Cup. He has just not been successful at all for them. He's been below average, consistently not putting in top performances, does not have a goal contribution since the Gold Cup. Where does he fit into this team? I mean, we're going to get into the tactics board in a second. I'll just give you a little sneak peek of what that might look like, so definitely stick around as we get through this squad. We're going to go through the tactics of how this team's going to play out. But I don't understand Luca De La Torre. It's worrying me that him and Berhalter are becoming locks for this roster. The two of them, maybe one of them should be involved, but the two of them would be detrimental. That means either Cardoso or Tessmann is likely not making this squad, or at least of Cardoso, Tessmann, McKennie, and Musa, one or two of them are not making the squad. Absolutely insane. Diego Luna, good for him to be there. Jack McGlynn, I'm really excited is there. McGlynn has been very, very solid since the Gold Cup. 3 goals and an assist from midfield for him, so glad to see McGlynn here. I don't think he got enough run out in the Gold Cup, and I'd expect him to be in this starting lineup, hopefully, over Berhalter and De La Torre to see what he's made of. And then Sean Zawadzki, who was on that first Gold Cup roster and then got taken off of it. 25-year-old, he has 1 cap, just a player who has no chance of making the World Cup. Him and Blackman, to me, are the biggest, what is the point of them being here? Taking away roster spots. Should have gone out and gotten, Nathaniel Brown or some of these other potential dual nationals into this side, or, Caleb Wiley's injured, but John Tolkien, James Sands, Griffin Yao, the types of players who really could have a shot at making this World Cup roster. And then to the forwards. I'm fine with the forwards that were selected. I like Downs, Pulisic, Sargent, and Weah. For Josh Sargent, I know I've said this many times, it's truly now or never for Josh Sargent. Josh Sargent has to score a goal in this September camp, or he absolutely cannot be called up again. He has to score a goal at home against Japan and South Korea. He has to score a goal. And I've already seen people making excuses. Oh, how is he going to score a goal with this setup? There's plenty of players who can get him involved in goal scoring here. He's going to play with the front three of Pulisic and Tim Weah. He's going to play with Diego Luna behind him and Tyler Adams. I mean, the starting lineup isn't going to be terrible, right? The starting lineup's going to be maybe 6 or 7 of the starting 11, or at least 5 of the starting 11 for the World Cup. So it's not terrible. There is no excuse. If Josh Sargent does not score a goal, I don't care that he has 4 goals in 4 matches for Norwich. That's fantastic. We know that he can do that. I'm happy for him. People think I'm a Josh Sargent hater. I'm very happy for him that he has found a very successful career for himself in the championship. That is nothing to scoff at. It's a very, very hard league to score goals in consistently. But that doesn't mean that he has to be in the World Cup roster. It just doesn't. He hasn't scored a goal since 2019. If it is June of 2026 and he has not scored a goal for the U.S. men's national team, it will be 6 years and 10 months since his last goal, 6 years and 8 months since his last goal for the U.S. men's national team. He just can't be on the roster. There's just no way you could make a case for that to make any sense. And Zendejas, whatever. I mean, I know Pochettino likes Zendejas. He's a hard worker. I could list 5 attackers I would have rather seen rather than Zendejas. Cole Campbell. So that means Cole Campbell has no chance at the World Cup. Griffin Yao. It means Griffin Yao really has no chance of making the World Cup roster. Those 2, at the very least, I would have rather see over Zendejas. Of course, Haji Wright, who I've mentioned 4 times already at this point. So the other thing that's a little worrying is it seems like Patrick Agyemang at this point is probably rated higher than either Sargent or Haji Wright, considering he was not included. I know he had some surgery recently, but it seemed like he was going to be back for Derby soon enough that he might be back this weekend ahead of the camp roster. But this also may just point to the fact that he's not healthy enough as well. So there's a lot of weird stuff with injuries for this September camp that also affected this roster. Let's get into the team and what it's going to look like. So here's what I have as a starting lineup. We're going to go starting lineup, and then I'm going to show you a couple of different formations in the way that I think we can set up. That'll be more interesting than just looking at a flat lineup. So it looks like Matt Freese is our starting goalkeeper. You got Serginho Dest at right back, Richards, Ream, Arfson. This to me is probably the starting back 4, although I'll give you a little sneak peek. I think it could be really interesting to see Freeman start and Dest at left back. I don't believe that's what we're going to see, but to me, the dynamics are spectacular there. This is a little bit of a more awkward one. Again, this is not the 11 I would start. This is how I think Pochettino will look at the team. I know he loves Luca De La Torre, so I think it's going to be Adams and De La Torre here in the double pivot on paper. Weah out on the right, Pulisic out on the left, Diego Luna through the middle, and Sargent at starting striker. The only other thing I'll say about this is for their clubs, Tim Weah plays more left wing. Pulisic last year was playing more right wing. I do think Pulisic's going to stay here, mostly because, and we'll just go right to it, when you look at it, this starting lineup, right, as a potential 3-2-4-1, which is mostly how we play, you're going to look at Pulisic coming in as a double 10 next to Diego Luna. That's how it's going to be, right? Arsen's going to hold this width high and wide, and Pulisic's going to get into these half spaces. So that's why I think Weah is going to be out on the right, because otherwise it's a bit of an awkward situation where you have Arfson dropping in as this third center back, which isn't ideal. Now, I do believe when Anthony Robinson, if you watch the Fulham match on the weekend, Anthony Robinson did a lot of that in their buildup. He did, yes, when he came on, he got high and wide and was a big part of the Emile Smith-Rowe goal. But he also, in the first couple phases of buildup, oftentimes was kind of where this Tim Ream position is. He was kind of flanking these 2 center backs in this 3 buildup and helping play move through the middle. And then once play got into the final third, that's when Anthony Robinson kind of overlapped. So Arfson can't do that. But if you wait a second, and I'll show you what I think another potential lineup could look like, that makes more sense to me with Anthony Robinson or Serginho Dest. All right, so from the back, when we get into this 3-2-4-1, you're going to have Tim Ream high and wide here on the right, Richards high and wide here. Ream on the left, Richards on the right, and hopefully Tyler Adams will drop a little bit deeper. Like, if you recall, our biggest issue in the Gold Cup was Tyler Adams was getting a little too high, and these guys were getting too narrow, but then you didn't have the help out wide here. And especially when this is Tim Weah and not a Musa and not a McGlynn, you need these players to get higher and wider and Adams to be a little bit deeper. It can be flat. Like if you remember from that Johnny Cardoso video I did last week, this can be a flat 3 here, but Adams can't be this far ahead because these 2 players, when they get too narrow, it cuts down their passing angles. And then, Dest is happy to pop out over here, and I think you're going to see a lot of this triangle created, and then finding Luna kind of create this mini diamond here to allow Pulisic and Weah to get a little bit higher. But on this left side, we just know Luca De La Torre does not thrive in those positions, right? We've seen it so many times. When these guys get too narrow and Luca De La Torre isn't comfortable getting too wide here and he kind of stops here, this passing triangle creates nothing. Then Arsenal ends up coming super deep and we end up building up nothing into this, right? You don't want your diamond buildup to be your points be the more narrow part. You want your points to be the deeper part and then your players you're playing off of to be closer together. So that's the biggest issue when you have De La Torre out there. Now, of course, it doesn't necessarily have to be De La Torre. I think it could be Berhalter, which doesn't thrill me. I think McGlynn can drop a little bit deeper. But to me, the way to solve a lot of these issues with De La Torre is to go Dest at left back. So that would look like, your back 4 is technically this. And then McGlynn is the other part of the pivot. And the way it works to me is Richards is going to drop in as your center back. You can have Ream high and wide left, and Freeman. So we saw a lot of this at the Gold Cup in the first couple of matches, right, in the group stages, and it was super duper successful. Freeman, I thought, was really comfortable in this position. Yes, he loves to get up this wing, and there's opportunity for it. But when Freeman was here and McGlynn was able to kind of be, right, it becomes more of a true diamond midfield with truer wingers. And Dest is so comfortable in the half spaces. I'd much rather have Dest here than in a true pivot. He's happy to be an inverted player and by a true inverted fullback into midfield, but he's a little bit better when he has a little more space to roam. And when this happens, you're going to have the ability to have Ream play this ball into Dest. You'll have the ability for Ream to play this ball into Luna. Dest can then pop here. Pulisic can get here. Dest can get a little bit higher and wider, right? The two of these three players can kind of interchange in the way that they receive throughout the match. Like at times you're going to have Luna playing super close to Sargent, and then Dest can kind of pop a little higher. Pulisic can come a little bit more central. Dest can pop further wide. There's just so much more that can happen with Dest off the left, in my opinion. Now that, of course, changes when Anthony Robinson comes into the side. Because when that happens, you're going to have Richards come further out here. I'd like McKenzie to be the center back, and then Anthony Robinson in this left center back position. I also think like this to me in build-up gives us a lot more options. You don't have to have players who take on so much responsibility and have to take so much risk and feel so confident in playing in tight spaces. There's so many more opportunities here in build-up, and you can create mini transitions super easily, right? When you get into this exact formation, what'll happen at times is you're going to have Richards drop a little bit further out here, Freeze almost not like fully in the build-up. He's not going to be the extra man. That's just not, he's not that comfortable with the ball. But what will happen is if this ball comes out to Richards, Adams can drop a little bit more into here. Dest and McGlynn can come a little bit more into here, into this their own double pivot, and then that's where you can create the mini transitions, right? Freeze will play to Richards. Richards can kind of play back to Freeze across to Adams. Adams and Ream, right? Or even Ream can drop further in. Dest will get out wide, and Adams gets into here. When you do all of that, and you pull this team really close in, and you have players like Dest and Ream, they're so comfortable playing this line-breaking pass, this riskier pass into your midfield, and then Adams or McGlynn can turn and run, and that's when you'll have this front four running at it. It's a big camp for Josh Sargent, not in terms of just getting a goal on the books, but in terms of his ability to impact play. And I actually think in a lot of ways for Josh Sargent, the best thing that could happen for him is playing alongside Damian Downs at times. We've talked a little bit about what that looks like, but let's say Arsenal. I got Arsenal on the brain. Let's say the U.S. are chasing a goal, or make a game situation where you are feeling like you're chasing a goal. Let's say you bring on Downs for Weah. So when that happens, Downs is going to come a little bit more central. You're going to kind of have these almost double 10 wingers sitting in behind. I mean, we've seen it before. What more happens is they get a little bit less wide, right? And then you kind of have McGlynn will kind of step in here. So, the build-up's a little bit stranger, right? Like, it's almost like a 5 at the back, but like almost like a 2-3-1-3-1. Like, that's not exactly what it is, but you basically get Downs and running into the channels either side of the striker. We saw this a lot, right? And it allows Freeman and Richards to play this ball in over the top. Downs tries to knock it down, and then you get, McGlynn or whoever. This is usually like a Tillman, somebody who's actually a little bit more comfortable playing deep. You get like a McGlynn or Tillman and a Luna kind of running in on the second ball, and it gets Josh Sargent into a lot more, or whoever the striker is, into a lot more scoreable positions, a lot more 1v1s, a lot more ability to kind of run off the back shoulder of defenders and get themselves into goal-scoring position. So I actually think when Damian Downs comes on, and if they do try this with the two of them on the pitch together, it will give Josh Sargent the best opportunities to score goals. Just looking at the depth we have a little bit more. We have Freeman who's going to play for Dest a little bit. I hope we get to see Noah Kai Banks play alongside Chris Richards. Like, I don't want to just see, you see this 11, and then in the second match, you see the other 11. Like, Richards or Ream needs to play alongside Noah Kai Banks when he plays. You don't want him to feel out on an island with Tristan Blackman. You also don't want to feel him playing out on an island with Nathan Harriel. Not that Max Arson's a great defender, but you want to have him play with people who are technically competent, because he is so technically competent. Like, Noah Kai Banks is a freak athlete, long legs, big strides, great passing range, comfortable dribbling out of the back. Like, Noah Kai Banks is the perfect kind of center back to create these mini transitions, because not only can he pass out of them, but if he feels like he's in a position to, he'll force players to come closer to him. And if they don't, he'll keep carrying. And when that happens, and you can play one of these line-breaking passes into your midfield, that creates those mini transitions as well and gets our team running at the defense. Built for this, Noah Kai Banks, this 3 at the back build-up. Like him, this is a mess now, but him in this position here where Tim Ream is, with these guys here, it's really perfect for Noah Kai Banks, because as these guys will get a little bit higher and wider with Noah Kai Banks dribbling through here, and then you're almost creating an extra layer of midfield in the build-up. Obviously, Banks will drop back in, but when he starts bringing this ball up, I highly suggest going to watch some Augsburg highlights of him doing that, because he's really, really talented at it. So yeah, I highly suggest watching some Noah Kai Banks highlights if you haven't. Looks like a center back that would never play for the U.S. That's how good he is. Just the athleticism and technical skill. I mean, it's a player. It's a difference when you've been at an academy since you're 7 years old versus not being at an academy in Europe since you're 7 years old. Just there's a different level of training that goes into your technique and using your physicality. But that's the roster, right? I mean, there's not really much else to say about it. It's a little bit of a shocking one. But nonetheless, we'll be here watching the matches. September 6th, you got South Korea. That's going to be a 5 p.m. Eastern time kickoff. Then September 9th, you've got Japan. That's going to be a 7:30 p.m. kickoff. So a lot of excitement here for the U.S. men's national team to watch these players. I know we're not thrilled with the squad, but we'll be watching nonetheless. Maybe somebody will surprise us. At this point, it's very hard to understand where we stand in terms of who's making the roster and who's not. But again, this is the last chance for anybody new, according to Mauricio Pochettino, the last chance for anybody new to impress him and play in the World Cup squad. So it'll be interesting to see where we go from here. Gio Reyna got his move to Gladbach, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. So we're going to have another episode coming out before this camp starts, so early next week, on how Gio Reyna fits in at Gladbach. We're going to do a tactical breakdown of how they play and where Gio Reyna is going to fit in there alongside his best friend Joe Scally. So a great move for Gio Reyna. Thanks so much for watching Yanks Abroad. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our future videos every single week, updating you on all the Americans playing abroad, U.S. men's national team camp rosters, and the good and bad of them. During international breaks, we got live streams, post-match reactions, and then, of course, the tactical breakdowns, the breaking down frame by frame, how players are playing and how it's going to fit into the U.S. men's national team. Make sure to watch all the last couple of previous videos breaking down Cardoso's move to Atletico, Josh Sargent, what's wrong with him, and everything else in between. So thanks for watching Yanks Abroad. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll talk to you next week.